Should people on food stamp programs, humans, okay, we're talking about humans, be able to buy seeds and plants with their EBT or SNAP card? That question comes up a lot in the comments on our last videos where we went really just touched the surface on food stamp gardening, what you can buy with your EBT SNAP benefits card. And the comment section had some really strong opinions, concerns, great questions. So today I'm going to slow down and I'm going to read through what everyone shared, what you said, and talk honestly about what growing even one plant can mean for someone who is stretched thin. This is not about debate. This is about information, dignity, giving people options that make sense for their real lives. So we're going to dig into the comments and see what we can learn together. So here I have a comment that says, I do container gardening, and that can be done in very small spaces. Growing food is very rewarding. I agree. We have done episodes on container gardening, gardening when you don't own land, vertical gardening, and I can link all of that information in the description below. Here's the next comment. They should not sell seeds on EBT. Sorry. You cannot grow enough food to feed yourself and not have the assets that disqualify you from assistance. Also, the volume, fail rate, loss of motivation to me, the person that wrote this comment. It just doesn't make sense. I think people need to work with lower socioeconomic classes in order to really see what they're working with in terms of capacity. So this is definitely one of those opportunities to have a deeper conversation. So I did a response, and I'm going to read it to you. I hear you about the struggles, okay? This is a great point that I think could be a great discussion on a deeper level. I do feel that when you buy a specific list of seeds or plants to start growing, you save from them to replant the next year and every year after that. So you've only spent the money one time. This also reminds me to have a future conversation about cost. What does it cost to start growing things? Great inspiration here for future talks. Appreciate you joining the conversation. Your brain on gardening is invaluable. I believe all people should experience that. I have worked with lower classes, I've held multiple positions, and see that the world deserves more gardeners. People helping people, teach equals grow. We had more conversations on that thread, so I'm going to keep going. A response to that was the problem with saving seeds and modern agriculture is you won't get the same fruit or vegetable you are growing from their seeds. Not to mention, how do you allow one to flower without the rest spontaneously doing the same? What pollinated it with what pollen? The idea of growing your own food is way more romantic than practical. If you buy seeds every year, that eliminates the drift in growth, but then it's just reoccurring costs. The real solution is to cut out the commodity farming like corn and soy by about 50%, slowly exiting those markets and converting their fields back to growing fruit and vegetable. It'll make sugar prices and junk food go up in price, but fruit and veg should drop drastically. There's so much to say here. I'm loving the thought process on could we see some more diversity in our fields in the United States? I see teff and oats coming into play more than a corn and soybean rotation. I definitely see a potato and onion farm. We no longer have peas or carrots down in my section of Minnesota, but we do grow a lot of green beans and peas, wild rice, things like that here in our state. Now, yes to less corn and soy. And no, I hear all of everyone saying, but it's in everything. There's museums built around teaching children how much products in our day-to-day lives contain corn and soy, which can be changed. There's a bigger picture here. And again, it's just open conversation. I'm not debating anything. I would love to see some kind of shift. Absolutely. But I think making that big of a change with agriculture takes a lot, right? And so when we get overwhelmed and we go, oh, that's too big for me, we go local. What can I do for me? Then maybe bump it out to what can I do for my family that I don't live with? What can I do for my community, my neighborhood, my city, my state? You go out from in, right? So I think that was really good points. Another comment on this whole conversation was it's supplemental. Growing your own food is rewarding, beneficial, nutritious. Everyone should be growing their own food. You've got the right idea, okay? You have to know what you're doing first. Okay, we learn as we grow. Now I'm going to come back to the seed pollination conversation. Everyone's situation is different. One of the first things that most find when you're poor is that the pasta and rice are cheaper and more filling than fresh vegetables. I found it helpful to grow some veggies to supplement my food budget. You don't need a lot of space, and you can scrounge containers from recycling bins. A couple of cherry tomato plants can add flavor and vitamins to your meals. Zucchini grows well, is healthy, and produces a lot of food value, says this commenter. You would be surprised how much you can grow in the tiny space between the front door and the street. You can also do windowsill sprouting anywhere. There's an entire list of crops, actually, that are cheaper when you grow them yourself, but there's also a list of crops that, you know, the store might have a cheaper price, so maybe don't grow those if you have to whittle it down to a tiny list, right? I also encourage people to use their benefits for farmers markets or a farm share, a community supported agriculture, produce box subscription, fresh local programs that match your dollar. So we're going to have links in the description to figure out where closest to you you can search by your zip code or your address for that EBT SNAP program that's accepted, for the farmers markets, for the double matching bucks programs, that kind of thing. I will provide the search tool. You'll have to do the homework with it, right? So now when talking about seeds, we can have a whole show about seeds, and I'm just going to touch on it lightly. You don't have to stress about it as much as you think. A seed does just want to grow. Now, we do have differences with heirloom versus hybrid. So the heirloom seed or open pollinated seed, every time you save that seed, it's going to produce the same thing. When you save a seed from a hybrid plant, it's going to not guarantee that it's going to make the same crop the next year. It's going to revert back to the two parents that it took to create that hybrid. Now, we have had conversations on this, and I can put links in the description below to go more in depth about this, but ask your questions in the comment section. If you're concerned about that, grow things that aren't hybrid or that don't have that risk. Now, with pollination, some plants pollinate themselves. They don't need a pollinator to come and help you out. Sometimes just a little wind is all they need. That's an entire conversation itself if we wanted to break down each single plant. What we do when we talk to beginner gardeners is it's pick one thing that you know you like to eat, and let's learn everything about it. The pests, the growing conditions, its sunlight, its water, and then expand from there. If you want to start with 3, start with 3. We don't want to overwhelm ourselves. It's easier than you think. You can add as much as you want to the layer of the onion here. You can go deep into scientific, psychological, master microscopes in the soil. You can do so much, but that's not the conversation we're having. We're talking about basic human people just trying to have a plant in their pocket, per se. So if we were to go over why should people that use this program, EBT SNAP, have access to growing a garden, because you can use your card to buy seeds that are fruits or vegetables and plants that are fruits or vegetables. So as far as I understand, that means no flowers. Now, there was a question in a comment that said, tell me where the stores are. And then I had other people saying, we've used this at Walmart. So I'm going to put a link in the description, and it's fns.usda.gov/snap/retailer locator. So it's a map, and it says, where can I use my SNAP EBT? And so you would use the map to type in whatever it asks. Street address, city, state, or zip code, starting location, and then it'll give you, like, in a radius, how many miles do you want to go. There's also a farmer's market map. right? So I will put that in the description so you can play around with that. Give you a little homework there. So back to my list of the benefits of this, okay? It stretches the food budget in a quiet but real way. So a pot of herbs can save someone $5 to $10 a week. Lettuce or greens grown in a tote can cut grocery costs. Small wins still matter. Those herbs have medicinal benefits, which is an entirely separate conversation, and I will link in the description that conversation for you. It teaches a skill that pays off long term. Knowledge is leverage. Even if this year is tiny, they're gonna you are gonna learn timing, watering, confidence, and next year you scale it up, right? You level up. Whatever's interesting to you. Maybe life has more breathing room. Maybe you have to step back a little and grow less. It gives people a sense of control. When you're working two jobs and everything feels expensive, being able to produce even a handful of your own food builds dignity and emotional stability. And that is not fluff, that is survival energy. It is one of the least expensive hobbies with a return. Seeds are cheap. Soil or containers can be improvised. EBT covers many starts and seeds. Gardening is one of the few hobbies that can give more than it takes. Micro gardens count. A windowsill tomato won't feed a family. Okay, that was a point that was made. But it teaches the process and provides something fresh. A 5-gallon bucket of potatoes or peppers does more than people think. We did start microgreens and sprouts together on a live stream the other day, growing inside, the steps it takes. I showed you, we had a lovely conversation. I will link that in the description below. It helps with mental health, which impacts everything. Okay. A plant gives you a moment of calm after your two shifts. You know, if you just take 15 minutes after work to be outside with your plants or to be in your little plant corner, lower stress means better decision making, better sleep, which we all could use. Let's be real, more resilience. That matters for anyone grinding through life. It's a generational skill. If someone has kids, letting them see the process plants a seed for their future self. That knowledge returns dividends for decades, okay? And it's not about feeding a family overnight. It's not about growing a full plate of food that first year at all. You're not promising, I'm not promising you a full pantry doing this. I'm offering you a start, a foothold, a little bit of independence. People respect honesty when you frame it that way. So be honest with yourself. What are your fears with growing food? I'd love to hear in the comment section. Let's have a conversation. You can grow food in minutes a day. Container watering once daily. Microgreens with almost no maintenance. You plant it, give it water, let it sit. We go through all the steps in the video in the link in the description. Herbs that can thrive on neglect. Gardening doesn't always look like a full backyard homestead, okay? It gives people a way to build up instead of only do without. Most programs focus on cutting back. Gardening is one of the few that lets people add something positive to their life. Let's read some more of the comments. All of this is great and wonderful if you have a yard or a patio. Not all of us do. Correct. I don't have the stat in front of me, but a large amount of people don't have a yard. There are ways to grow food without a yard. I will put a link in the description. Another commenter says producing a garden in pots is possible, but more difficult. Link to container gardening in the description below. Another comment says victory gardens need to be part of the education as well as basic finance. Who else agrees with that? I would love to see that. More time in nature, more examples of gardening in our environment. True life, basic finance. Schools, churches, community programs, summer courses, kids and seniors. Let's make it happen. Let's contact our city. Let's get a consultant in about permaculture and food forests and pick a spot in a park and develop it. Let's get donations. Let's get cuttings for things that grow perennial, local in your area that are out there. Now, businesses is a whole nother thing. To grow edible plants around like a business landscape, I feel like there's a way bigger rope to get through for that. The key word here, could. Most big stores label their seeds and mushroom kits as seasonal items, so EBT doesn't cover it. If you know of specific stores that allow this, please share with us. Like I said earlier, I'll put a link in the description for a map, and it's from the Snap Gov people to find a retailer locator. This is what I've done. I've gone to the place. One was a farm supply store, one was a organic co-op, and I asked, "Do you accept EBT cards here? Yes or no?" You can email them, you could call them, you don't have to do it in person. I get you if you don't wanna do it in person. And the one said, "No, but I'm gonna look into that," and they got accepted to be on the program and use the cards there. And the other one said, "Yeah, we do. Just understand that it's just for fruit and vegetable seeds, fruit and vegetable plants, not flowers." Some of them, it's no, we're not set up to do that, right? And like I said earlier, there's people that talked about using Walmart to do that, but would Home Depot work? Not so much. You'd have to ask your Home Depot, but I'm pretty sure the answer is no. Here's another comment. Nice, useful information. Sadly, many, I believe most people on EBT are not interested in producing their own food. They are more interested in horrible processed garbage. I'm not picking on folks that use EBT. Most people in general do not eat healthy and do not have the intrinsic motivation needed to be more self-sufficient. However, I remain hopeful with people like you, my wife, and myself, the commenter, encouraging and teaching people. Hopefully, more people will make better decisions for their families. Maybe these tough times will get people to do what they should be doing, and maybe some positivity will come from this. Um, Motivating one person is totally worth the effort of making a video, focusing on solutions, that kind of thing. Now, we've seen in history when gardening saved our butts. Okay. We've seen it pretty recently when people went, "Oh, I should really grow a garden." I'm going to have future conversations on the story of a seed, right? And I would like to know from you, what do you want to know? What are your questions to help guide us through getting an answer, right? Here's another comment. Their SNAP office actually mails a flyer advertising that the farmer's market in their town accepts SNAP. There's vouchers sometimes. There's a little tent. When you go there, you take your card to them at the farmer's market, and they might give you tokens to use at the booths for the vendors, and they might double them and match them based on whatever program they have. Let me know in the comments below. Have you ever used your card at the farmer's market? I know I have. I have done that. Here is another one. This commenter says, even better with the very same seeds, you can hydro and make full food. Sprouting and microgreens are great, but really provide very little in comparison. So here's the replies to that. It seems like there's still a hesitation when we throw out that word hydro. It's sold a lot more now than in the last 10 years. Yes, it's more available. Yes, but hydro does take more space and energy. It has more steps to it. And I would argue that microgreens provide significantly more nutrients than the fully grown, mature counterpart. With some studies finding them to have 4 to 40 more times more vitamins and antioxidants. This is because the young plants are packed with the nutrients because the seed is stored it to do that. And then they're harvested before the plant uses up those nutrients to grow larger. So a quick turnover means you get more food versus waiting for a mature plant. And I think a hybrid of both is beneficial to anyone. And always thank you for adding to the conversation. When we did our conversation about microgreens in the link in the description, we went over how do we eat these things? How do we incorporate them into our meal plan? This commenter says, when I was growing lots of microgreens, I would put the remains of the cut trays out on the garden, like ready lawn, and seedlings would continue to grow. I've seen people um, grow them and throw them out to the chickens. I've seen that before. It does use a lot of seeds. Microgreens is highly densely planting many seeds. Let's see. This is a wonderful and timely video. This person ordered canned veggies, peas and corn and beans, plus rice to give to a food shelf, because I know that there's a high demand on food shelves at this time. And it's one of those things that we should be able to help everyone. We are all humans. Again, just, you know, everyone deserves food and access to food. Now, I would really like to see people growing something, anything. And if they really truly can't, that's when I say, look local. What is growing? What is someone else working very hard to grow that you can access and to eat seasonally? I don't eat perfect. I'm definitely not a perfect eater, but I am trying, and that's what we can do. Just a few more comments and then we're going to wrap this up. It's great information. I hope more people will start growing their own healthy food for themselves and for children. We just need to do something, a little something every day, right? This is great information. 5 years ago, I spent $170 on seeds and starter plants every year since. I grow more food than I can consume, even after I give it to friends and family. It's like teaching a man to fish than giving him a fish. Love your information. Uh, I love having you here in the conversation. We should grow food for the public and have people assigned to picking it up off the street so it doesn't rot. We have the capabilities to do so much more than where we are in the world. If we didn't have so much greed and we actually educated people, things would look much different. I would really love to see a huge shift in society. Okay, can we make that happen? The perennial food forest systems in the parks, the businesses with edible landscaping, people eating with the seasons, pollinator patches in the medians and in the alleys, rain gardens near flood zones, real live flowers in the ground at graveyards. We absolutely have the capabilities to do so much in everyone's local community, taking some open grass fields and growing some food, right? Let's see what else we have. Sure, another government regulated program for delivering food to those who won't work with lots of taxpayer funded middlemen. I'm sure that will work, was a comment on our video. More of an honor system. Volunteers, master gardeners build a perennial food system in a local public area. People are free to harvest. And if others want to set up systems, that's great. Host classes at the farmer's market. Lots of information on the internet is for free. You just gotta go there and read it and watch it. Schools, churches, hospitals should all have garden systems, and I would like to see the government keep their hands out of it long term. This comment says, no, expand your mind a little and consider humans actually just taking care of things without a government to screw that up. You couldn't even picture that because we do so terribly compared to what we are capable of as humans. That is just the problem. Most people are either too uneducated or too selfish to think this way. I do see a lack of interest. I see laziness, bad time management, mismanaged priorities, all of that in humans. It happens. We are the people who want knowledge, who want to learn, who love to research, used to be thinkers and leaders and artists. Let's get growing again, right? This is valuable and little known information, but it is November. Countertop kits aren't super productive. Depending on where you are in the world of the seasons, not the best time for me here in Minnesota. That's why we are doing microgreens and sprouts. And if I had some herbs inside in a container, that'd be great. And I am using nature's refrigerator for certain things that can handle it. So just a longtime supporter of growing food wherever there's space. Indoor grows do come with space and order and pest considerations depending on what's going on. This person has a tiny home. So like I would love to see, like, we should do a show and tell of in tiny homes, how are you doing your gardening? Right? Now, there's community garden spaces. We've seen that. If you don't have the space, you borrow the space from someone else, or maybe you have a family member or friend with land, and then you just say, hey, can I grow a garden over there? Right? And then you would set it up for your capabilities. This commenter says, I haven't used any kits for similar reasons, although the family members have used kits. Building hydroponic systems. Now, I personally am not, I have never done hydroponic systems, and I don't know if I will anytime soon. And so Let me know in the comments below how you feel about food stamp gardening, the thought of that. So, thanks for taking the time to share your thoughts and questions. These conversations matter because growing food is not one size fits all. Some of you are stretched thin, some of you are seasoned gardeners, and some of you are just curious. My goal is never to convince you that gardening fixes everything. My goal is to show you that even one plant can give you a little more control, a little more nourishment, and a skill that grows with you over time. Think about taking some herbs, right? And putting them in the milk or the cream that you're heating up or the butter to add to your mashed potatoes. Just little things to make your food just a little better for yourself if you want, if that's interesting to you. If today's discussion helped you think differently about what's possible with the EBT and SNAP program, then hit the thumbs up, subscribe for future notifications on conversations we can have. Let's keep growing and keep asking and keep learning. And remember to grow every day in every way.